What's up, everybody? So, like a lot of people, I was kind of pumped when I saw that A Series of Unfortunate Events was getting remade into a TV show on Netflix. Like, I was super pumped. I watched the original with Jim Carrey in it just to get fucking hyped. And I'm not gonna lie, I got a little bit let down. Now, I have not read the Series of Unfortunate Events books, so the only reference I really have is the 2004 movie that I just did a review for. And like any other like remake, reboot, sequel, whatever you want to call it, I tried to put my expectations kind of at the door because I fucking loved the original. However, I can tell you that even if I didn't see the original, I'm pretty sure I wouldn't have enjoyed this show. Because after about 2 episodes of the show, it was very apparent that this was directly aimed towards kids. I am not the target market for this show at all. Kids anywhere from 0 up until about their freshman year of high school will probably enjoy it. But as an adult, as soon as like episode 5 kicked in, I like started to just space out. I picked up my guitar and I'm just like, I'm gonna learn a song while I watch this. And I'm not even that good at multitasking, so I kind of spaced out for like the second half. I paid attention to the story when it really mattered because I like to watch things the whole way through, even if I don't have a lot of faith in them, because you never know, like the last couple episodes might, justify the reason why you watched the entire beginning of the show. And it turns out, nah, not really. Some of the things I did like though, I did like the opening theme that they came up with, even though the main lyrics to that song are look away, look away. I really wish I would have heeded that advice. But either way, it's a well-composed theme, and I love how they went a completely different direction with Lemony Snicket in the show than they did with the movie. I love Patrick Warburton. He is awesome as Putty in Seinfeld, and he is also awesome on this other show called Rules of Engagement. It's on Netflix, I believe. Check all 7 seasons out. That show's fucking awesome. His whole persona is just comedic in nature. Like, he's just a funny ass dude. And surprisingly, I liked Neil Patrick Harris as Count Olaf. I wasn't a particular fan of the other characters that he put on, like when he was the sailor or when he was Stefano. His Stefano was just like super fucking cartoony, and I was just like, fucking really? And again, I don't like to compare it with the original, but the fact is the original shows you how good it could have been. That's one of the things about like remakes and reboots and shit like that, is you can see either how good it could have been or how bad it could have been, depending on what the original was. Like if the original was terrible, this show might have looked a little bit better, but it's still a very kid-centric show. There's a lot of slapsticky shit going on. But yeah, didn't like his Stefano. I really didn't like what he did with the boat captain either, because it was basically just a Sean Connery impression. Like there was no art or talent to it whatsoever. He was not being creative. And he also dresses up like a woman at some point, and I just like, it was just fucking stupid. I liked his dialogue as Count Olaf because it was actually like funny and like in your face, like I hate these kids. So I actually liked the way Count Olaf was written. Like he was actually like funny. And as far as the show's visual style, I actually kind of liked what they did with it. Like it wasn't as like totally Tim Burton-y out there the way the movie was, but there was just enough similarities to know that this was from the same story. Like these two things are derivative from the same thing. And I'd hazard to say that actually some of Count Olaf's henchmen, some of their costumes were actually a little bit better than they were in the original movie. But I would have to go back and rewatch the show and the movie to, figure that out, and I'm not gonna do that. So I liked NPH, I liked Warburton, I liked the way the show looked, I liked the theme song, and the last thing that I liked was that the baby actually had some funny dialogue. If you don't know, the baby just kind of like speaks in gibberish, but there's like subtitles to everything the kid says. And in the movie, it was funny, like almost every single line was hilarious. In the show, it's like, half the time, but it could have been so much worse, and they actually did pretty okay with it. Oh, and I like that Will Arnett and Kobe Smulders are in the show. They only have like little parts, but I thought they were pretty good. Now, as far as what I didn't like the majority of the acting. Besides Warburton and NPH, I think the only other actor that I liked was like the super tall, like brutish henchman that Count Olaf has. He's got some funny lines, and he's just like, he's got this like air of comedic presence to him that I really liked, but like other than that, everybody else's acting was just like really meh, or just plain bad. Like the guy who plays Mr. Poe, absolutely shit. Like I could not take a single word he said seriously. And whoever the lady is that plays their Aunt Josephine, who happens to be a different race than they are, like she just plainly sucks, period. I actually didn't mind the guy who played Uncle Montgomery. I didn't think any of like his comedic dialogue was really that funny, but as far as like the acting part goes, I actually thought he did a pretty good job. Like he did a good job playing like the wholesome guardian figure. And the two guys that own the wood mill and like the later part of the series, they just are not that great. The guy who smoked all the cigars had a couple of funny lines, but for the most part, he was just like, what the fuck, dude? The only returning cast member from the original movie was Catherine O'Hara, and I actually thought she did a pretty good job, but again, just as far as acting, not funny. And lastly, I don't like to badmouth child actors because they're kids, But after watching shows like Stranger Things or movies like The Goonies or Stand By Me, I've realized that kids can be very good actors as long as they're directed properly. However, these kids, not directed properly. There was no chemistry between the kids whatsoever. They over-enunciated most of their lines, and the two kids did not sound like brother and sister at all. Like, it was super obvious that they were reading from a script. They weren't actually acting. They were just saying things things towards somebody in their general direction. And honestly, the show was just kind of boring. Like, they could have easily shaved this down to 6 episodes. There was enough unimportant, jargony bullshit that they could have just taken a whole bunch of time out of this show. It did not need to be 8 episodes long. And I'll say lastly, another thing that I did like was Joan Cusack playing the judge. I thought she was actually pretty good. But anyway, overall, guys, I really just didn't, I couldn't get into it. It's not for me. I'm not the target market. And I mostly blame that on the guy who directed a good number of the episodes, and that's Barry Sonnenfeld. Because he has directed some bullshit, but he's also directed some really good movies, like he did the Men in Black movies. All 3 of which I enjoyed, by the way. But now he's like, I don't have any faith in the guy. So overall, I'm gonna have to give the show a 4.3. It's got some redeemable qualities, but like I said, not the target market, so I couldn't get into it. If you're younger than 14, I would say check this show out. Other than that, you might be struggling. But anyway, those are just my thoughts. What are your thoughts? Did you actually like the show? Hop in the comments and tell me why. Other than that, if you like this review, drop me a like, subscribe to all that other bullshit, and I'll catch you guys later.